Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Green Dragon Podcast. I'm your host, Aiden, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation this week. We've got Isaac back on the show, and we're going to talk about the 4th of July. So, this is going to be a great show coming out before the 4th, so you can listen to this before your celebrations. We're getting this out there for you. Happy 4th of July to all you listeners, and enjoy the show. Hey, guys, what's going on? How you guys doing?
Great.
Isaac, how's it going?
Just peachy. Getting ready to blast fireworks, man.
Are you all prepped? Do you have like this? Do you have the stash like acquired already, or do you have to go out and buy some?
Yeah, I gotta go buy it. I have not been stocking up all year like most hardy Americans.
Yeah, I'm there with you. In Georgia, it's easy to get fireworks. In Georgia, they literally sell them at Walmart. They sell like mortars and like whole kits. You literally just go like anywhere, and they've got like mortars, like Publix, like the local. Like, have you guys ever been to a Publix? You know what Publix is? Okay, a Publix is like Tom, and it's like Jewel. So it's just like a normal like grocery store and like pharmacy, or like a Kroger if you guys know what Kroger is. And so it's like kind of a small grocery, but they've literally got like mortars that like shoot like 50 feet up in the air there. Like, why? Like everybody lights them up. I lived in like close apartments last year, and people were in the parking lot lighting off mortars, and I was like, oh my gosh, like you would get arrested so quick in Illinois.
Surprised they sell that at Walmart. That's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I was completely unaware that it was such a big deal, but yeah, apparently it's a big thing. And now I drove back this past week to Illinois, so now I'm in Illinois and they don't even let you light off like a freaking like sparkler. You're not allowed to run around outside and wave it around, like it's so lame. It's like, come on. Nobody likes to have fun here.
You guys ever had those like Roman candle fights?
I never was allowed to participate in one because one of my uncles literally lost part of his ear in a Roman candle fight.
Oh man. I remember when I was right before I went to college, that 4th of July that summer up in Vermont, I was with like 20 other people from my class because we had just graduated a couple months before, so we're all getting together for 4th of July. And we're out in the middle of absolute nowhere, Vermont, in this cow pasture behind the family farm. And we're all sitting around a campfire, and somebody rolls up with like 50 of these things. And so we're like, all right, let's have a Roman candle fight. And I was like, I've never done that before. It sounds fun. And it's like pitch black out now. It's like 10 o'clock at night. And we all stand in a huge circle, and one person or two people have lighters, and they light every single one of them at the same time. We all have two in our hands. And we light them all. We start running away from each other. And it's this huge hill right there that we started at. So everyone's like running up the hill, down the hill, across, like, and everyone's just shooting at each other. And all you can see are the shots going off. You can't see each other until the shot gets explodes. And oh, it was so crazy. And then right after that, we launched some mortars from the top of the hill. And one of us had the crazy idea of putting two mortars in in the launcher at once, and lit the thing. And the first mortar went off, but it knocked over the launching mechanism, and it landed on its side, aiming downhill right at us at the campfire. So this one goes off, shoots right at us, and everyone's like, "Get down!" So everyone like dives to the ground, and it zooms like 10 feet over our head, woof, towards the bottom of the hill, and explodes like 50 feet away from us. But it was awesome. That's what America is about.
That is what America's about. I remember, I think my best fire of the 4th of July firework story is me and my buddy Jack. He's been on the podcast. You know him, Isaac. He was on the Prepper podcast. But we went, and there's a spot out in Illinois, and I shouldn't say this on air, but there's a place in Illinois, and it's in the middle of a cornfield, and it's literally like it's like a, I don't know, like a rural road. It's like on a highway, but it's like one of those highways that doesn't actually exist in like Illinois. Like it's it's one of those that's like it goes parallel with like 88 and like doesn't actually exist, but it's like four corner and it's a four-way stop. And at this four-way stop on all four corners in the cornfields, they've got these firework tents set up. Um, and they sell illegal fireworks. So every year we drive out there and we buy illegal fireworks in Illinois, which is fantastic. It just makes you feel like you're doing something American. And so we get out there, we buy some fireworks, and the guy, he sold us on this one because it was like literally like $5. It was like called the Princess something. It was one of those that was like a 6-shot like cylinder. Like I don't know if you light the one fuse and it's got like 6 shots to it. And we're like, this thing isn't gonna do anything. It's got princesses on it, but he like threw it in for $5. So we're like, what the heck? We'll take it. So we get back and we're at my parents' house. And so the street that like runs at the bottom of our driveway is a pretty busy road. You probably get a car that goes through every couple of minutes. So it's not like we're at a dead end street or in the middle of nowhere. Like we're right in the middle of like a town and on a busy street. So we take our fireworks out there and we got this little we light off some like in the street. We wait for the cars to go past. We wait for no cars to be coming. We're lighting them off. So we get to the princess one. And we're like, this thing isn't going to do anything. Let's just light this one off. Who cares? We were kind of saving the bigger ones because we're going to take them to a field and light them off. Now, mind you, in Illinois, just for the people that are listening to this, anything that shoots up in the air is like extremely illegal in Illinois, and you need a permit. And if you don't have a permit, like the minimum fine is like $250. If you're a minor, you're definitely getting a ticket written and probably like I don't know. I don't know what they would have done. They probably would have held us in the cop car and waited for our parents. We're like 16. Um, so we get this princess firework out and we put it out in the middle of the street. And Jack runs out and he lights it. I think the statute of limitations is up on this, so I think we should be fine. Um, he runs out to the street and he lights it, and then he runs back, and we're standing at the top of my driveway, so it's probably like 50 feet to the street. So he's 50 feet away, and he gets back and starts going off, and the first one shoots straight up in the air, and we're like, "Holy cow, that's like a mortar!" And then the second one shoots off, and then it tips over and it starts shooting in different directions. One goes underneath my dad's Hummer, goes off. We're like, oh. One goes at our neighbor's house, blows up, and then and this is all within like 5 seconds. They're just going off, off, off. One shoots right at us, blows up like 5 feet away from us. We're like, oh my gosh, we book it to the backyard because like they're literally going off all around us. We're like, holy shit, like we probably just we probably just blew up the neighbor's house. Like, it definitely the car alarm's going off because it turned on it blew up right underneath my dad's Hummer in the street. Like the car alarm from our neighbor's car is going off. There's like car alarms, there's smoke everywhere. We're like, oh no. So we we run inside. We're like, we gotta get out of here. We picked up the like shell from the princess, we tossed it, and we're inside. We turn off all the lights. My parents aren't home. They're at like a fireworks show somewhere. And we see the cops just slowly, like 5 minutes later, roll down our street. Ever so it's like we sit there for another 2 minutes, cops roll back through. They're looking. So yeah, we got away with that without getting arrested or anything, but we nearly did blow it. Literally like blew up like at the neighbor's front door. And the neighbors were like outside trying to figure out what happened. Car alarms are still going off. We were like, we're so dead. But yeah, here we are to this day. I think those are the stories that America's all about. I mean, if you don't have one of those stories in your childhood, I mean, are you even living? Buying illegal fireworks, lighting off illegal fireworks, blowing up the neighbor's house, blowing up cars. I mean, what's better? That's what the 4th of July. That's what it's about.
Got to be a risk factor.
Yeah, why not? I mean, hey.
I mean, it is pretty cool to say, like, as our anniversary for our country every year, we just.
Oh, you cut out, Tom. We can't hear you. I think Tom finished there with blow shit up. I think he was like, for our anniversary, we like to blow shit up, which is true. I mean, what's more American than that? Like shooting guns and blowing up fireworks is so American.
Having some brats and burgers to go along with it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And if you can blow a brat or a burger in the process, well, that's fine too.
That's a bonus.
Yeah.
It's a bonus. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and just make sure, I mean, like beer and whiskey is like also a must. Also, like don't like light off fireworks completely impaired. That's also not a recipe for success. Success. That usually ends with you getting arrested. especially if you're a younger person lighting off fireworks while under the influence. That's usually not good. But
So hey, thing
yeah.
you just there about you just mentioned fireworks. We're talking about like beer and broth, and then you mentioned whiskey and cigars, and they gave me this thought and this kind of question, I guess. So it seems like all of those things are kind of like traditionally like American things. Like I think all of those things are kind of like things that Americans do. I mean, obviously, like whiskey and scotch is not from here, but was imported here through the immigrants and through their culture being shared into ours and kind of helping ours develop. But so it seems like on the 4th of July, we traditionally celebrate that day of liberation with all of these extremely iconic and classic American things, which when you look at each one of them individually, except for whiskey in my eyes, they're all pretty like basic things like hot dogs and burgers.
Yeah.
There's something about it, I feel like, that kind of enkindles just for a moment, at least, this kind of spirit of our country. And I was wondering what you guys had, what your thoughts were on that.
I think you're totally right. I think it's cool because I think each one of those things represents like I feel like a lot of those things, like even the fireworks, like obviously we're not the first country to invent fireworks. I think the Chinese had fireworks back in like the early Middle Ages. I don't think that's anything to do, but it's cool to see the um the different things there. Like we didn't invent a hot dog or a brat. I mean, the Germans, I'm pretty sure, did that, but immigrants brought that and became an American thing. So it's cool to see like the American people, like, yes, I think they all became part of the American culture, but in that like fabric of our American identity is like you have all these other cultures and the immigrants who came here from those different cultures weaving in some of their traditional, whether it's foods or activities, and it became a part of this American thing, and we turned it into this really cool thing. It's I feel like it's somewhat unique. There's not too many countries that have so many different people coming to one place to celebrate the same ideals. And I think what makes it American is the ideals we're celebrating rather than like, oh, this is like something our ancestors did from 1500 years ago on this land. Like it's not that. It's like I don't know. I feel like we're celebrating, especially in the 4th of July, the ideals that we all share as Americans, no matter where our ancestors came from.
Well, and just one other quick note on that, and then I'll let somebody else talk for a little bit. I mean, a lot of countries have celebrations for like independence from somebody, or like sort of celebration of liberation from slavery of some sort or tyranny. But if you look at every country in the world, it seems like America has the most robust and kind of crazy celebration of this one particular day. And I think it's because, and I'm sure there's other countries that have this as well, but the difference is between those celebrations and ours is that it's kind of our birthday. And it's our, in a historical sense, it is it's the, you could say conception or birthday of our culture, of our nation, of our country. And that's so important because we're such a, in terms of like historical reference, we're such a new country, such a new people. And we're also a conglomeration of all these other countries and peoples. Like we have the fireworks, which are from the Chinese, the brats, which are from the Germans, the whiskey and the scotch, which are from the Irish. And we have all these different traditions that are kind of melded in. And I just see that as being such a incredible and beautiful thing that we as Americans have this, I guess, kind of unique position of being able to celebrate our birthday because it was so recent. And we can look at ourselves and we can look at the people in the past from our country and just be so thankful that we're still here because it was not even that long ago. And our birth was born out of fire and blood too. It wasn't just like, oh, we settled this land and then we put a flag in the ground and this is our place. Like we had to fight for it, like nail and tooth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of an interesting and unique thing I think that America has over other countries. And like I said before, I'm sure other countries have um, those kinds of celebrations for the same kinds of reasons. But if you look at like the global scale, it's like, oh, America's the country that does this 4th of July thing because it's a huge celebration for them. And it's like, well, yeah, it is, because like that's our identity right there. Our identity was born on that moment.
Mm-hmm. I think the other just to piggyback off that a little bit, and I'll let somebody else talk as well because I have talked a bit. To piggyback off that a little bit, I think the other thing that makes it so unique is there are several. I mean, there's lots of countries that have obviously fought for their independence, but the American story is so unique because of the structure that it was based upon, and this idea of it being something complete, like it was completely brand new. There was no country like America, and that had this idea of self-governance. And so I think that's something that's really interesting too, because it was marking in the world, in history, a new moment in time in government. It was the people coming together saying, we're not going to put up with tyranny anymore. We're going to create a government where the people have a say, where the people um, have an opportunity to live their best lives without the government interfering. And so that self-governance was something that was completely new. And so I think it's a really special date, not only for America, but for the rest of the world, because it led to a lot of the modern democracies that we see. Up until that point, there really wasn't any others. So I think that's cool as well.
What do you
Yeah.
guys think? Jake, say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's definitely yeah, something to be proud of. Because I think it's something that can be taken for granted. Like I know I have some friends that are from Russia and Serbia, and they kind of refuse to celebrate any type of Independence Day or national holiday just because of their country's history in recent memory. So again, speaking to your guys' point about how new our country is and how uh, I mean, we've had hiccups along the way, but relatively speaking, we've been a pretty united and been a country to be proud of. So I don't know. I guess just kind of a sense of gratitude is what I usually feel around this time.
I definitely agree with you, Jake. I've been thinking a lot about um like the celebration of liberty in America and how it looks for different people. Um, like like the past week, I was over with my neighbor and we were having it was Tom Cox, Isaac, and he invited me over for he just made a steak and some corn because his wife was out of town and he was just hanging out, and we were talking about different things, and then we were checking out some of his guns and things like that, and
He's got
he's
some, dude.
really nice guns. Yeah,
Did he show you the?
he's
Did he show you the shotgun that he pulled out of the bottom of a river?
no, I would have asked him for that one.
He's got this super. It might have been his dad, but he's got this shotgun hanging over the door, I believe, when you come through the shop to the back room, the man cave. And it's, I don't remember what year it is. I think it's like from the 60s or the 50s, maybe 40s. It's his old shotgun that either himself or his dad like pulled out of a river and restored. And it is unbelievable. It is so cool. Anyway, continue.
Oh, I'm gonna have to check that out. Thanks for sharing that. But I looked at him as kind of like the old school American grandpa that really gets what I think what America is about. It's a place for the opportunity to use your freedom in the way you see best. And I think that's why we all celebrate the 4th so much, because we all had some sort of hand in bringing that freedom about. We all had our ancestors who did it, who fought through so many wars. We've had our own time and like our young generation now trying to save our freedom. And I think it's really beautiful to see when everyone comes together and we get to celebrate in a united venture over what we're so proud of in America. And I think the number one thing is our freedom. And it's a freedom that's not seen anywhere else throughout history. And even though so much of our freedom has been taken away, it is still wild to think that we are still the most free country in the world. Like, it's kind of wild how much freedoms we've lost, but still, we're still free. And I just think it's so wonderful to see all of our fellow patriots joining together for that sort of celebration.
Hey Tom, if you don't mind, and just for the sake of the conversation, when you say America is the most free, what do you mean by that?
I think you have the most choice of what you want to do. I mean, maybe there's a couple countries now we have more, but the variety and the scale of which you do something, I think, is unique to America. Like, I like, for number one, that you have the right to bear arms, so you have your first right of defense. I don't know of any other country where you actually have that right. Do you guys know?
I don't believe there is any others, unless
So,
they just don't have a law at all written. You know, like if there is no. But as far as I know, I don't think it's written in any sort of physical document that says the people have a right to bear arms.
I wonder if Switzerland does or not. I know they're pretty like military heavy.
I believe they do, but I know they do have they might have the ability to bear or have arms, but a lot of these, especially the Scandinavian countries at least, I know Switzerland has a lot of guns there, but they also are restricted on what they can and can't have, I believe. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah,
So
if I could.
go ahead, Jake.
So, oh, sorry. If I could just interject real quick, I found a list of the countries that guarantee the right to keep and bear arms. You guys are correct. Switzerland is on that list, as well as Czech Republic, Guatemala, Mexico, and Ukraine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. So,
no real rhyme or reason there.
so I wonder
different.
then guns in Switzerland, if they have certain restrictions on what you can and can't own. That would be my one thing on all this. Like they might say, "Oh yeah, you have the right to bear arms," but like as we're seeing right now in what the government's trying to do here, they're saying, "Well, you have the right to bear arms, but actually, you have the right to bear a shotgun. Actually, you have the right to bear a muzzle loading pistol from the 1800s. Actually, you don't have the right to own a gun. It's only for hunting."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but that is interesting. I didn't realize there was that many that had it written that the citizens have the right to keep and bear arms.
Interesting thing about Switzerland, from what little I know about it, I did watch like kind of short documentary on their guns history in Switzerland. Um, but a huge majority of the Swiss people participate in shooting competitions. Like it's a huge thing over there. It's like they're like national sport or something. Um, every citizen is almost encouraged to learn how to use firearms properly and to compete in these competitions, like especially the youth. And so they are very strict about gun safety and handling of firearms, but at the same time they have a plethora of opportunities to engage in the safe use of firearms and through sport and competition. And I thought that was really cool. I don't know how like far down the like how nitty gritty the legislation goes in terms of like what you can and cannot have. I'm sure it's probably not as lenient as America's kind of restrictions are on firearms, depending on where you live. But they have a kind of a culture built around this idea of learning how to use firearms safely and doing it for fun. It's like this kind of a sport kind of mentality to it. And I think that comes from their historically their military involvement in the world. They're very like independent and want to stay out of everything, but are very adamant about protecting themselves. And so they want their citizens to kind of know how to use firearms. But at the same time, because they're encouraging everyone to use firearms, they have a lot of restrictions on when, how, where, what kind. I don't know what those restrictions are exactly. But in order for the government to kind of regulate and kind of encourage that, they probably have more restrictions on the when and where and how.
Yeah,
That's really
it's
fascinating.
that is really cool. I just looked it up. So it looks like they do permit a wide range of firearms. If you want to carry, though, it seems like their carrying permit is a bit stricter than here. There's nothing like a constitutional carry. It seems like you have to go through a pretty rigorous permitting process to carry.
Which, I mean, that kind of makes sense if everyone is kind of is allowed to have firearms like across the country. You might want to have a little bit more control over who can do that. Because in America, it's like, it's such a huge country. There's so much legislation and so much ground to cover in terms of like seeing who is carrying what. But at the same time, we have ourselves split up into different states who can legislate themselves. But Switzerland, one big country, it's like, one small country, and they're like, well, we need to make sure that we're kind of like one state in America. We need to make sure all of our legislation is exact all the way across the board.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think. Yeah, I'm just looking to see here if there's anything else that differs. It looks like for the most part, they're probably the closest. I looked up some of the other ones. The other ones are kind of like, oh, well, you can own this, you can't really own that. But Switzerland does seem to be. It is cool to have a country that does embrace the gun culture like they do, because that is one thing here. Yeah, there's certain groups of people that embrace gun culture here and embrace their right as a citizen of America to keep and bear arms and like to go out and shoot and like to practice. But I would not say that's a widespread thing. And it's becoming less and less so. And yeah, I think misunderstanding too, like on the people, like I talk to a lot of people, they just don't understand like how guns work or like what it takes to go and buy a firearm. They're like, oh, you can just walk into any store and walk out. And I'm like, no, that's not exactly how it works. Kind of, but you've got to go through a background check and you've got to show your ID. You don't just walk in and buy it like it's a pizza. Like it's not the same. But there's a lot of so like I think people and a lot of people just aren't comfortable around guns too because they've never been around them or they never been taught. And so like I don't know, it's just like it's cool to see a country that embraces it to that level where it's like encouraged. Like it's supposedly encouraged here because we have it written in our Second Amendment, but it's really discouraged most of the time to I mean, if you tell the average person, "Oh yeah, I like to go to the shooting range," they're like, "Who is this right-wing nut job?" Like, come on, you know? Like, and then, even worse, if you're like somebody that leans further left and you tell somebody that you like to go to the shooting range, like, you might as well just hand in your liberal card. Like, just hand it over. It's over. Try voting for Biden. They'll literally block you. But it's cool. Yeah, I do think that's cool. But trying to get back on track here. Um, yeah, I think one of the cool things about the 4th of July, and this is just kind of my observation, is I think a lot of times people see it as like, oh, it's this holiday that just celebrates like real patriotic. Like I think it's seen sometimes as like for people on the left, they see it as more of a right, and I'm not saying all people on the left, but certain people on the left classify the 4th of July as one of those right-wing holidays. And they would rather celebrate Juneteenth or Black History Month or Pride Month. Um, but I think the cool thing about the 4th of July is it's not about dividing, it's about unity. Like it's about all American people getting together to celebrate because the truth of the matter is we all have because of America, we all have the freedom to live our lives how we want to live them. And that's a beautiful thing because that is not the case anywhere else. So you have the option to live your life how you want to live it. And like, I don't understand, like, if you're a person that is gay, like, how you could look at America and say, what a horrible place to live, when in Saudi Arabia, you literally get like murdered and like literally put on like death row for being gay. So like, yeah, I just don't know. Like in my opinion, the 4th of July is the most important holiday because it is the most unifying holiday because it celebrates what we are as Americans. We are a free people.
I do think it is sad to see, especially nowadays, how many people, like you're saying about that instance, like with the gay, like way far left gay or like LGBTQ community, especially, and the radical leftists don't appreciate their own country. They don't love and appreciate where they actually live, but they'll still sit here and they'll still live here and they'll still do their own thing every day. But they'll, they'll piss and moan over all these quote unquote injustices that their country is supposedly inflicting on them. And yet they're still here and they're still living here in this intense and great freedom that we have with all its problems and difficulties with it. But they just have a great and deep depreciation for what's been handed to them. Like they wouldn't be here. They really literally would not be here if 200 years ago, 200 plus years ago, this group of men sat down and said, we don't want to be part of this tyranny anymore. And we're going to separate ourselves and become our own country so that the people of the future can prosper. And it's just really sad to see all these people saying that America is a systemically racist or systemically colonial or just a place of travesty on all social levels. And then, like you just said, like if you look over the other side of the ocean and you see these other countries that have zero tolerance for some of these things, and they might know about it, but because they don't have an actual experience of it, they just like, that doesn't matter. Our country sucks and it's the worst and it's horrible because I can't, I can't flash my fake boobs in front of a bunch of children at the gay bar or something. It's like,
I hope there's no children at the gay bar.
they're,
I don't know, man. But
but it's just,
they should definitely shouldn't be able to do it at the White House. Did you see
I mean,
that? Yeah,
that's
that's
a god.
okay.
Your fake White House in front of Joe Biden. I'm sure he appreciates that a lot.
Oh, definitely.
And but yeah, it really is sad, and especially with that, with you having brought that up, the episode at the White House where they had that celebration of the LGBTQ for Pride Month there. That I really think that event happening at the White House demonstrates how ungrateful this country is, where they feel like they have to go up to the White House to push this ideology that no one in their right mind actually believes in, to promote this idea that rights are being restricted for this supposed minority group of oppressed people in this country where you can do literally whatever the heck you want. It's just really sad to see something like that. And then at the same time, like you're sitting in your bar or your grill and you're like thinking about how thankful you are to be alive and be in this country and not be in like communist China, and looking at those people and saying like, I just don't get it. Like, why are they here? Like, why are they so ungrateful? I don't get it.
I think here's my opinion. This could just be my opinion, and we'll get back on track here, guys. I'm gonna take us down a rabbit hole. But what do you guys think? Do you think we should just get a giant cruise ship and take everybody that's ever said? Maybe this is what they need to do with that like special like national security thing they're using to track all our conversations. What is that called? Whatever the thing Snowden talked about. Was it the Patriot Act that they used?
Yeah, Patriot Act.
Okay, they need to use the Patriot Act for Patriots. They need to find everybody that said, I don't want to live here, or there's so many countries that are better. They need to find a cruise ship. They need to round up all those people. They need to put them on the cruise ship, and then they need to ship them to China. And then instead, they take all the Chinese that are tired of all the horrible things that are going on in China and want to be free, and then you ship them over here and just flip flop.
That's a
What do you
good
guys?
trade.
I think
I
it's a
like
great trade.
I'd be down. Much
I'd
better
be down
chance.
for it.
Can you imagine?
Food.
Yeah. Can you imagine how our economy would boom too?
Oh, it would
when
be
you have
so
all these
great.
people that are willing to come in and actually appreciate
work.
the country and work for its betterment. Like,
They're not trying to collect their $15 an hour at Starbucks and add nothing to this country.
Oh, that'd be cool.
It would be
I think
cool.
we'd be more
we'd
than
be-
half of China.
yeah.
We'd double our population in a day.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah, we would.
And China would get what they want too. They get a bunch of sheep.
They would. The funny thing though is like within a year, those same people would like definitely turn. They'd just be like, "All right, we're fed up with
That is
this."
true. That
It
is
would be
true.
so
Look,
funny.
most of them would get killed off for either breaking all of those laws or just being a denigrant, degenerate.
Yeah. I don't.
But
I
it's
can't.
funny.
I don't
It's
think
funny
that.
you bring up that example because that's pretty much exactly what's happening with the Mexican people. It's that they're all flocking over here to find a new place to live because they're fed up with the socialism of their country and or the tyranny,
Mhm.
and they work so freaking hard to make a good living up here.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Just on that note, just a really funny story. Tonight and yesterday, I went to this gas station to fill up, but driving around my work truck and my personal car, and the cashier there. Both times I was there, the same exact van with some roofers in it, and there was like 10 Mexicans in it, and they all pile out, and they all get in front of me in line, and they're all getting their stuff. So tonight when I go in, I pull in, and they pull in at the exact same time again. So I run inside, and I tell the cashier, I was like, "Here comes your evening rush." And he looks out the window, and he's like, "Oh shit, they're here." but they work hard every single day, and they get there at 7 o'clock, and that's when they get off, and they get their afternoon drink and their snacks, and they go home and take care of their families. So
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. I'd take that any day over the entitled little rich white suburban liberal kids.
Yeah. Do you guys think, like, I know in 2020, I think we had the most fireworks set off in California ever. So do you think this year we're going to have like the record set of fireworks set off since everyone's going to want to celebrate America more?
Maybe. We could probably single-handedly do it here in Illinois between me and Jake.
I was gonna say, we'll
We'll
work
just
to make
go.
it happen.
Me and Jake are just gonna drive our vans to, if the who controls that, Jake? Is that the ATF? They probably would find me. The
Yeah.
ATF would probably classify our buy as a firearm buy. But we'll drive both our cars up across the border and load them up with fireworks and drive them back here and light them off, just so we can do that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I think it's a good idea.
Well, I heard that like more and more people are becoming. Well, I heard this crazy stat. I was listening to the PBD did a podcast with Alex Jones a few days ago.
Yeah, you told me about that. I haven't listened to it yet. No, I haven't.
I'm like 40 minutes into it. It's like 3 hours long, but
that's a lot. That's a lot of 80. I bet they had to like bring in like a dumpster truck load of ADHD meds for Alex. He needs to pop like what do they call, what's that stuff that they take for ADHD? Is
Adderall?
It Adderall? That's what it is. He either had to be like hyped up on Coke or Adderall to be in there for that long. It was 3 hours. That's like 4 Adderalls a minute for him to stay focused without like blurting out like gay frogs.
Well, it's actually really fascinating because some of the stuff he talks about in there, it's like, whoa, I had no idea. Like he predicted 9/11. Did you guys know that?
Yeah, I remember seeing his video.
He was actually writing the White House telling him not to do it. It was wild.
Crazy.
Um, but he was talking about the loss of trust in the media. So, and trust in the government. Apparently, this is wild, but the trust in Congress for the American population is only at 7% right now.
I believe that. That's insane.
And I think trust in the media is below 20, I think.
Ooh.
On leftist sites, it's like 35, but
Yeah,
I
of course.
think the actual is like 20. But I was pretty interested in that because if that's the case, then I wonder if a lot of people are really starting to want. I think everyone wants the truth deep down, even though a lot of people try to fight it. But I think so much stuff has been coming out, especially in this last few months, this like year or so, that they're all really skeptical, and I think they really want what's truly American because I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I've seen a lot more like families and people getting together and humor sent around. Like it seems America's trying to enjoy the better things of life,
Mm-hmm.
and there's like the radicals that are trying to take it all away. But I think the good homegrown American really wants what's good here.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just was seeing what your guys' like. Do you think this year's going to be a spark of more patriotism?
Isaac and Jake, I'll let you go first. I have a thought on this, but I'll keep it to myself for the minute.
Go ahead, Jake.
I don't know, it's hard to conjecture, but I feel like this year, yes, because we have the election year 2024 next year, and that's when everything gets divided again. Because I feel like we kind of go in cycles. So this year, I think both parties will be preaching unity and that nice sounding type of rhetoric. So I think for this year, maybe that will set a spark. But I think, unfortunately, I feel like it'll go out eventually once we hit the next round of election cycles. But I don't know, Isaac. Maybe you have a more positive take than I do to counteract that. We'll see.
Well, I mean, I will say that I do see the logic and reasoning behind what you're saying there, and I do agree with it. But at the same time, so here's what I think is going to happen. It's going to be, especially this year, a huge demonstration from patriotic people. I think at the same time, and it's not going to happen over the course of one day, over the 4th of July, but there's going to be a huge kind of pushback against it too from all these other people. I think that the entire month of June is already focused on that. I think the entire month of June is already focused on a separation from the patriotic ideals of what America is, and not just what America is, but what it was founded on, which was the pursuit of the good for the individual. And the entire month of June, like Pride Month and Juneteenth, being kind of turned into something horrible, is the opposite of that. It's not the, or I should amend my statement before. The good of the individual in relation to the whole is what 4th of July celebrates, right? The individual freedom of each person for the benefit of the entire country. What celebrations like the Pride Month of June celebrates is the good of the individual just for the individual. And it's not even a good thing. So I think there's going to be a lot of pushback from those people about 4th of July because they think this country is abominable. They hate this place. But I do think that because of all of the controversies that have been brought to light, and all the differences that have been brought to light between the two sides, there's going to be a huge demonstration of patriotism in this country on the 4th. And there is going to be a kind of a more maybe long lasting and probably more drawn out demonstration of opposition to it. Yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I see where both of you guys are coming from. I'm gonna extend it past the 4th though and say, let's look at the future of the next few years. I think what's happened over the last 2 years, especially, is people that were on the edge slowly started to realize how insane certain people on the left are. More specifically, how the Democratic legislative body really has no idea what they're doing, at least economically. And I think that's where a lot of people that were more moderate are like, holy crap, let me vote right. And I think that's a good thing. I actually was talking to one of my coworkers about this. He's a really cool guy. He's actually from a different country. I won't say just to keep it anonymous, but um he lived in another country, moved here for college, spent college here, has his citizenship here. Um, and we went out to a cigar lunch and we were talking and having a drink, and he was like, "Yeah, it's crazy, man." He's like, I just don't understand it." He's like, "I don't understand why the whole left agenda is all based around all this gender stuff and all this other stuff." He's like, "Why can't they focus on the economy? The economy sucks right now. Biden's done a horrible job." Like, yeah, you're totally right. He's like, "I voted for Biden." He's like, I should have never done that. He's like, "I'm gonna if it's between him and Trump, I'll vote for Trump." And in this next election, I'm like, yeah, I get it. And it's interesting because you see these people that were moderate and have kind of over the last few years changed their minds a little bit because they've seen the far extreme of what radical leftist ideas push. And yeah, I think that's a good sign. I think that is a hopeful sign. I think there's a lot of people that um aren't just your annual right wing supporters showing up that will show up in the 2024 elections to kind of put away some of this nonsense. So I think that's cool. And the other thing too is they're embracing ideas like the Second Amendment. Like it's cool too. Like he's like I really want to get into guns. He's like I haven't shot a gun since I was in the military in the previous country. He served in the military for a year. He's like I haven't shot a gun since then. He's like I'd really like to do it. I'd really like to buy a gun. I just don't know where to start. I'm like, dude, I'll teach you. Like we'll go to the gun range. We could take a course. Like I'll take the course with you. Like I think that is cool to see. It's cool to see people that aren't necessarily from here, maybe moved here and had a certain idea for the last like 10 years about what they thought or what they believed in. Maybe we're leaning more left and supporting more leftist ideologies and kind of these progressive ideologies, and then realizing, wow, the system that was already in place here, that's been in place here for the last 200 years, works pretty well. And I like that system. And that system's a good system, and we should try to support it as much as possible. So I think there's hope out there. I think it will come from unexpected places, though. It's not going to come from the people that have been preaching on Fox News for the last 40 years. If anything, they've gotten worse. Like, we've got to look to our youth. We've got to look to these. We've got to welcome in the next generation of patriots, and they will come from unexpected places, but they will come, and that is my hope.
Yeah, it's almost like taking a page out of the left's book. What you were just saying there about trying to educate the youth and instill in them American values, and it's almost like an obligation because they're fighting tooth and nail to take over the younger generation with their ideology. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it will be a battle, like you guys were saying.
And I think anybody with common sense can come to these conclusions as long as they're given the right tools. It's just a matter of giving them the right tools to discover these things. And it's not just our youth. I mean, like, think about all these people that are coming into our country and are coming here for the right reasons. I mean, they're the same type of people that came here 200 years ago. They're coming for a reason. They're not just coming here because they want to ruin. I think that's one thing that the right tends to screw up a little bit is they look at immigration and they say it's a bad thing. But we have to look at it from a different point of view, and we have to look at it from this perspective that these people coming in are coming here for a reason, for the most part. I mean, there are the cases of, China basically sending in people to infiltrate us. Don't get me wrong, that happens. But the majority of these people, I feel like, are coming here for the same reason that people have been coming here for the last 200 years. And that is to find freedom. And they just need to be directed in the right place.
Let me push back on you on that one, Aiden, because most of the people coming across the border are military-aged men. It's not families or children.
No, I agree. That's what I meant by the infiltration. But I think that there still are plenty of people coming here that are coming here for the right reasons.
I think those people are more entering legally, because I think the legal
But
immigration.
I didn't say anything about illegal.
Oh,
I was just talking about immigrants in general, I think. I mean, people are coming here legally and illegally, and I think people should come here legally. And I don't believe in illegal immigration, just to be clear. That's not what I was trying to put out there. But people are coming here legally, and they're coming here because they're trying to escape another country.
yeah,
Well,
those people I think are good. I think it was I think Republicans on a grand scale want good immigration,
Mm-hmm.
from what I've seen, and there's actually been some pretty good talks on like how to do merit-based immigration rather than just coming if you can have a visa, but like meeting certain standards, which I think is something pushed by Republicans, or conservatives. I think we have had about 2 million on average that are legal. Maybe double check me on that, but I think a lot of when people say like America is anti-immigration, I think that's kind of off-putting, because I think America for a long time, I think most Americans want immigrants. I wouldn't say conservatives don't want them, but that's just me.
I would yeah. No, I would maybe clarify there. I wouldn't say most conservative. I think the stance for many, I think the stance that it comes across is very off-putting a lot of times. It's not always posed in a way that's immigration friendly. It's more like just we don't want you. It's at least phrased in those. It's phrased in ways that is not inviting. That's all I'm saying. I'm not.
Granted,
I'm not saying that that we don't want them, or that people on the right don't want immigrants. But I think oftentimes the stance is comes across as very anti, or can come across as anti.
I think part of the reason for that is that a lot of Republicans are pushing for the restrictions on immigration for the sake of security.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to have a secure border for your country. You can't be Canada.
Right. And a lot of the ways you argue for security are you point out the threats.
Mm-hmm.
And when you point out the threats to argue for security of your nation, it's always going to be a negative thing, right?
Sure.
It comes across like you're saying, like it's kind of like we don't want them here. Well, it's like, yeah, we don't here that shouldn't be here or aren't coming here legally.
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking about immigration through Mexico. Because let me tell you, it's not just Mexicans that are coming through the Mexican border. It's America. It's Arabs. It's Africans. It's basically anybody in a country that is world, America, better life. But the problem is you can't have too loose of a policy on immigration, because if you do, then you're going to get all sorts of people in here, and a lot of those people don't have good intentions. A lot of those people are just like, well, America's where I can get away with stuff, so I'm going to go there. And a lot of people are like, America's the only place I can survive, so I'm going to go there. I recently saw a video of a family of like 10 or 12 Nigerians, and they were on the American side and they were trying to cross into the Canadian border, and the border patrol agent, they were trying to cross at an illegal point of entry. So it was a country that was highly guarded because of the legal point of entry. And so there were these Canadian border patrol agents on the other side of the fence talking to the Nigerians, and the officer was saying, like, you know that this is an illegal point of entry. And I said, yes. And she said, you know, if you step across this fence, that's illegal. And I said, yes. She's like, you know that if you cross this fence, you will not be deported to America. You'll be deported back to Nigeria. They said, yes. And like, do you still want to cross? And they said, yes. Because we know that we have a better chance of crossing illegally into the country and surviving than going back home. I found that very odd. I found that odd for one reason, that they were in America and they thought that maybe out with people that said a boot and drink maple syrup for breakfast or whatever. But it also demonstrated the level or the intensity of desperation that these people have. They came across the ocean, they came to America, and then they decided to go up to Canada to have a hopeful life for their family. And it's a really sad thing to see, and it's also I guess kind of in the same time an encouraging thing to see, that people see America and somehow Canada as being places that you can prosper, and how good immigration is when it's done the right way. But these people were so desperate to get in, they were totally fine with getting in illegally, and because they didn't have any paperwork, they didn't really have any passports, they didn't have anything, they just came over the ocean, and they were just like, we have to start a new life, we have to save our family, we have to do these things, we don't care if we get in trouble, we just have to do it. And I think that's probably the majority of the immigration cases, where it's like they're just desperate. But at the same time, as sad as it is to make it harder for those people to get in, you have to do that. You have to make it harder. You have to make your boundaries clear in order to maintain security, because you don't know what people's intentions are until after they've done the thing that they're trying to do. And so, especially with the southern border, it's like we can't just open that up and let people in, because a lot of these people aren't here just for trying to get a better life. They're making money off cartel transports, and you just don't know who to trust, and that's just the unfortunate circumstance of the world. So yeah, when Republicans say, or when Republicans push for the border policies, it sounds harsh, but the truth is harsh. Like, you can't just let anybody in, and some people are going to suffer because of that. But it's not our fault primarily that they're suffering. It's their own country that's causing this issue. So we have to stand our ground and say, we're not going to take the guilt or the debt of this other country in terms of these people. We will let them in if they have an ability to do it legally. And we won't send away people that are trying to do so, but we can't just let people in that are trying to jump the fence, even if they're well-intentioned people, because you don't know who they are, and you don't know what they're capable of, and you don't know them.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. I think, yeah, without rules and regulations, there's no way to have a secure border. So I think you have to have those rules and regulations in place to do that. I think the main point is that it's just like, not to say that Republicans need to be more appealing, but I think like, I feel like there could be a better effort to balance the conversation, and not always. I feel like there's a lot of times where the conversation runs a little bit more negative, and there's not any encouragement for legal immigration. And maybe it's just the clips I've seen, and I could be wrong on that. But there's more talking about the rules being there. It's, it's always things like, oh, we've got to do this in place to secure the border. And absolutely, we need to do that. But like at the same time, we also need to encourage that next group of Americans, because this country was built on immigrants and it will continue to be. I mean, not to say that the American people won't grow from within, but it is a part of our culture. So we should also encourage that to be done legally in the best way possible to secure our borders, but also invite the next group of people that want to embrace freedom. And I think, yeah, that was just the main point I was trying to make.
Yeah, I think you're right. Our country needs to set a standard for people that are coming in. Like,
yeah, I think there has to be like a rule book. I mean, like, you have to set very defined rules on how it happens, and there is a way to do it. And I think even the system we have currently, I mean, clearly is broken. It needs to be figured out. Like, we need to figure out a better system to stop illegal immigration and promote legal immigration, because both sides of it aren't done very well right now. It's because we're letting in people right now on the southern border that should not be in because there's so many people immigrating. Like, there needs to be a better system for that. We need to either turn away people. There needs to be a spot where they need to stay until they've been legally processed. But like, we're letting through, we're basically we're basically just signing off on illegal immigration right now, because we're not even passing background checks. We're just saying, yeah, come across the border and we'll figure it out later. Like, that's not legal immigration either. That's just open border policy. So it needs to be figured out. But
I wonder what would happen if the government kind of promoted like bonuses to people coming across legally. Like, here's like $200 if you come across legally. I wonder how many people would do that.
Well, maybe if we stop giving money to Ukraine, then we could afford that.
Yeah, we can like reallocate some of that.
maybe if they defunded the ATF too, and the what are some of the other three? FBI, CIA, take them out. Just reallocate the funds. I'd be up for it.
Maybe they could make an accounting error for the funds going to the southern border and say, "Oops, we accidentally, we're supposed to give $6 billion, so we'll still."
Another 6 billion. Oh, sorry, we lost another 6 billion. I don't know where it went. It just disappeared. Did you know that whole story? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, I was listening to that recently. That's partially what that joke.
Yeah. But you know what I think would be a great investment of $6 billion that shouldn't have been sent to? I think if they handed out, if we're already in the business of printing money and destroying our economy and basically crippling the middle class and the lower class forever, we might as well have just written checks to everybody for like $2,000 to go buy illegal fireworks. Celebrate the 4th. Celebrate the 4th. I'm up for it. I support it. The only thing you're allowed to spend your $2,000, it would have stimulated the economy. We could have said the only things you're allowed to buy are fireworks and booze. I mean, holy crap. The liquor stores would have been popping.
Dude, Pyro Cat would be really rich right now. How about you? Right now, driving anywhere in the middle of nowhere, Colorado, Pyro Cat tents. It looks like a wedding tent. Huge tents, just like filled with fireworks, like on a random corner.
Yeah.
Where it's a beautiful sight. I love seeing that black cat in the yellow tent. It's beautiful. It's America, baby.
It's America, baby. I think before we close out tonight, we should talk about how the 4th was celebrated and how you should celebrate the 4th, because we just want to leave. I think we've talked about immigration too long. I think we need to just talk about the good stuff. I have maybe we could talk about our favorite, like, I don't know, 4th of July celebration stories from the past. One of my favorites was I was reading up on this, and this is actually on that History Channel thing I shared with you guys. But George Washington actually issued double rations of rum to all his soldiers to mark the anniversary of independence in 1778. So George Washington knew what was up, and in 1881. And so this was still during the Revolutionary War. He was just like, "Yeah, guys, this is our day. Here's double rations of rum." And I think if rations were still the same as the Civil War, that was like 2 pints of rum. So they had a good time. Like 2 pints of rum is like a quality amount of rum. That's like, isn't that that's probably close to
Where
750
they get all
mil.
that?
Where did they get all the rum from? Probably the pirates. Probably Captain Jack
Probably,
Sparrow.
damn, that's a lot. They're
Yeah.
just like, oh look, there's a British ship. It's probably full of rum. Let's
Yeah,
give it to our troops.
well,
Hell
put it
yeah.
this way. So 1 pint, so 1 pint was they got a pint of whiskey a day during the Civil War. So I assume it was similar rations, and that's 473 milliliters. So that's like I don't know, 3/4 of just your standard liquor bottle, but two
Wait,
pint. So
a
like
pint
a pint is 450 some milliliters.
a
And
day?
so there's 750 milliliters in your standard bottle of whiskey. So they were getting, or standard bottle of liquor. So that's 750. So like this bottle, this is what I'm drinking right now. This is what's fueling the podcast. This is 750 milliliters. So they were getting probably what's left in this bottle. My background's killing this. But yeah, if they were drinking if they were allocated double, that's 2 pints. So that's 946 milliliters, which is like 1 1/4 of these. That's a lot of liquor for a day.
Even
Their livers were thriving.
one pint of that. That's like, oh,
Yeah, I know, right?
We were made of tough stuff back in the day.
We were basically bulletproof. There's a reason they were able to saw off legs back then. They were all too drunk to know what was happening.
oh my.
So that was one of my favorite fourth stories. Two pints, guys. So that's like a requirement now. I think there should be a George Washington rule on the 4th that you have to consume at least 950 milliliters or 2 pints of liquor of some
No.
type. No, okay, maybe not liquor, but maybe at least like liquor, beer, wine. You can like kind of combine as long as it measures out to your 250. Your not your 250. Your 750, 950 milliliters. You're good.
I feel like beer would probably be the safest option in that
Yeah,
case.
if you don't want to kill your liver, probably.
Well, and also kill your next day, and maybe the day after.
The day after that, yeah, true.
Especially in a year like today when you have to go back to work the day after.
Yeah.
Falls in the middle of the week.
Well, that is a good story, I will say. Well,
You guys got any good ones to keep us rolling here?
I wish I had more better personal ones.
That's okay. You guys have a blast in Wyoming. What are you talking about, Tom? You guys shoot guns and light up fireworks. You're
Well, yeah,
basic.
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, like we're here like eating hamburgers. Like, oh, I wonder what sparkler I'm gonna light off tonight. Like that's Illinois.
I mean, to be granted,
bring Wyoming into this. So last, what was it? Maybe 2 years ago. When I was in Lander for 4th of July, I went up to this guy's house. This gentleman who used to cook for the school up there. He was a Mandarin guy, Chinese. His name is Bruce. Tom knows Bruce.
Wait, is his last name Lee?
Kind of. It's like Louis, but Louis.
Okay. Do you think it was a Bruce Lee's brother?
We all made fun of him because his name was like Bruce Louis, but it was like it's not really. You don't say it Louis, but it was like Liu or Lui, something like that. So it was like it almost sounded like Lee when you said it.
Bruce Louis.
So I mean, it was Chinese, it wasn't French. I'm saying it French, but Anyway, so he came to America a long time ago. He used to be part of this not like the Secret Service, but he was part of like a special military unit in China. And he also like catered for like the Olympics in Beijing and stuff like that. So he came to be our chef at Wyoming Catholic somehow because he wanted to live the cowboy life out in Wyoming. So, but he is like, in terms of like celebrating tradition and American tradition, he loves it. He loves America and he loves blowing stuff up and he loves freedoms. Like he has so many
Real
guns.
American.
And he's like this like straight up guy from like military in China, like living there for his entire life. And he's like you if you didn't like hear him talk, you would have thought he was like straight up a cowboy. But then you hear him talk and you're like, oh, you want some fried egg? And you're like, oh, okay.
You want some fried rice? You want some fried rice? Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have this bad habit of imitating accents like that. And it gets so bad where if there's someone like Bruce who has a really strong Chinese accent and they're like talking like that all the time, I will slip up and I'll speak to them back
in their accent. So you're like $5, $5, and they're like, shut up, we're gonna kill you. We're gonna put he was about ready. Did he pull a Glock on you? I would pull a Glock on you if you imitated my accent. I'd be like, get out of here, move it.
It was like,
find another story.
hardest moment, but I got off without getting scalped by the Chinese man.
I'm pretty sure that's the Indians. I'm pretty sure the Chinese don't scalp anybody.
Yeah, I know, but it was in Wyoming. You never know.
So you never know. They might be mixed.
Yeah, but I came into the kitchen one day and he was like, "Oh, hello, Mister," and I was like, "Oh, hello, Bruce," like back. And I said that, and I think it was right after working out with Tom at the gym. So I was like, my head was spinning. I was like ready to go for the day and like still kind of hazy. And I said that. I immediately clasped my hand over my mouth. And he like looks at me and like walks back in the kitchen all like smiling and stuff. Like didn't even phase him at all. But I was terrified for my life. I was like, this guy's gonna put a butcher's knife to my hand or something. But anyway, he was a good guy and I was close with him. But we went up to his house for 4th of July, and I had my old 1983 Bronco, and this firework, 30-shot firework, like square, that fit perfectly into the rack of my Bronco. And I bought it the year before, and I was going to set it off in Lander on the top of my Bronco as I was driving around through town, but never got the chance to. So I was like, shit, I'm going to do it at Bruce's house. And so I put that thing on top of my Bronco. I light it off, and it's shooting off like crazy, like fireworks going everywhere. And at the end of it, the last firework like doesn't actually like shoot out. It kind of like shoots out like maybe like a foot and spitters off and hits the ground and freaking caused a grass fire in his backyard.
Oh, no.
And then thankfully it didn't get too big. We were able to run over and out. But man, you don't want a Chinese man getting mad at you.
No, I mean you nearly got like you would have gotten arrested for like a Asian hate crime there, like lighting Asian man's lawn on fire.
Like
you'd have been worse than the people at the on the New York subway that were like pushing Chinese people into the railway. It was like white male lights Chinese man's lawn on fire in Wyoming. They would be like,
Yeah. He would have been like, I would have been like, Bruce, those fry eggs were not fry enough. Over easy.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah.
But anyway, just to kind of wrap that story up, it was really cool seeing a guy like Bruce who grew up in China. Most of his life was over there, but how much he appreciated America and how much he adopted its traditions. Like he rode horses like crazy. He was a straight up cowboy. And he came to Wyoming of all places, and he was a very successful man to go cook for this college that was like, 200 people and not making a lot of money. But he did it because he loved America and he loved the American West and loved those traditions and wanted to celebrate with us. And so, yeah, that was a really cool time spending that 4th of July with him.
That's awesome.
And fried egg.
Fried egg.
Fried egg every morning.
Too funny.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was gonna get one, but I didn't think about it in time. I should have gotten the flags for the truck, but next year.
Next year, Tom. I don't know. Does Amazon ship to you in time? You could Amazon them. I think you can buy the American-made ones off Amazon too now.
Really?
I think so. Yeah, if you look up American-made USA flags, they come up. So
And
I don't know.
they sell them pretty cheap at Ace Hardware, Tom. That's where I got mine for the Bronco.
Oh, really? That's a
3 years ago when I was up there. Yeah, they sell them with the wooden flagpoles, so you can like zip tie them to the side of your car. Oh, it works really well.
Oh, sweet.
Run some PVC in there too. It's always
Oh,
an option. Yeah.
Like paint that PVC with like red, white, and blue down the side. Like I said, spray the white side. But
You guys know if you did that in Illinois, you'd be considered a white supremacist, right? Guaranteed. You'd pull up next to like a Karen. She'd be like, "What are you, KKK?" You'd be like, "No, I'm American. What are you, communist?" No.
if you want me to,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think to conclude this podcast, if you want to celebrate the 4th right, do what you love to do. Drink beer, drink whiskey, enjoy time with your family. I think that's important. Invite a neighbor over, play bags, drive around with American flags all over your car, light off too many fireworks, get arrested, please. We actually don't do that. We will get sued. I'm not condoning illegal activity, but if you'd like to light off fireworks, more power to you.
Someone's gonna make a reel out of that scene where you're like, get arrested.
Get arrested. We are gonna make a reel probably, to be completely honest. But do something American. Celebrate your freedom. And at the very least, all you have to do is remember the 4th of July is a day to remember the freedoms and the fortunate to remember your fortune, because you live in the greatest country to ever exist, and you live in the greatest country to exist right now as well. So that is an amazing thing, and you should never take that for granted. So at the very least, just kind of mull that over in your head for a few moments on the 4th. If you're not going to do anything else crazy, just remember that you're lucky to be American.
God bless America.
God bless America. All right, guys. Well, we'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys listening to this week's conversation. If you enjoyed the show, drop us a like, leave us a comment or review. We appreciate it. We love hearing from you guys. If you liked what you heard and this is your first time, give us a follow at the Green Dragon Podcast on YouTube, Instagram, and True Social, and the Green Dragon Pod on Rumble and Twitter. You can listen to our show every week. New episodes every Friday on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And we have the Full Proof Podcast. Full Send's a great podcast. You can go listen to that. But Full Proof Podcast, if you want to get a little crazy, if you want to hear our crazy conversations, that's coming out on Mondays now. And it won't be every Monday because I don't think we'll have one for every Monday, but it's been the last 2 Mondays because we've gotten a little crazy the last 2 weeks. So go listen to ours from this week and go listen to ours coming out on the 3rd. It's going to be wild. Go find out why Skittles turn you gay. I mean, it's gonna be a crazy conversation. But anyways, until next time, be safe, fight for what you believe in, and most importantly, be a good American. God bless the USA. Have a great night.